Joseph Kahn is probably one of the most creative directors I have ever seen. I don't know if you're familiar with his music videos, such as Britney Spears' Toxic, which I think is an icon in video imagery, with her on the airplane as a flight attendant, and then U2's Elevation, which not only has the huge supergroup, but also Angelina Jolie in the video. You see dream sequences. You think about Muse's Nights of Sidonia. I mean, these are iconic videos. Joseph Kahn is one of the most amazing video directors out there right now, and now he has a feature film called Detention, which is in theaters now. The way he describes it is a teen drama slasher film for the modern age, involving Twitter and Facebook, things that were not necessarily relevant to the John Hughes generation, which I'll admit, I'm one of those. What would you say is the biggest change between teens then in the John Hughes era of Pretty in Pink and The Breakfast Club versus teens now? Because I watched the trailer for Detention. It looks like a hoot. But it definitely tackles modern issues. Mm-hmm. So what's changed between the 80s and today the most?
Well, first I want to say that Detention is not just a teen slasher film. It's a science fiction horror comedy with body swapping and Dane Cook as a principal and Josh Hutcherson as a hipster. So it's basically the most awesome movie ever made. And it's like got things like a movie within a movie. It's a mashup of almost every genre you can imagine. It makes Inception look like Thor. You know, it's a pretty trippy movie. It's challenging. Trippy. So what I wanted to do was make a movie for the generation today who I feel are like, and we're basically around the same bracket, you know, if we both liked the John Hughes movies back then, but they keep making these John Hughes movies like that were made 30 years ago, you know, and the template's exactly the same. And so what I wanted to do was update it in a major way.
Yeah.
And one of the things that people understand today are remixes and mashups. So this is a mashup movie. And more specifically, it's a mashup movie for people that process information in a different way. I truly believe today kids have a completely different way of processing than, say, someone 20, 30 years ago. And the reason why is the internet.
Yes.
Okay. Well, say back in the 90s or 80s, if you were a kid and you wanted to find out something like Led Zeppelin, you know, and you wanted to find out about like that band, how would you find out about it? Like, you know, it's because you didn't have the internet.
Yeah.
Maybe go to a record store, maybe.
Yeah.
And they might have, you know, a book on it. Like, say, for instance, you wanted to find out, like, you know, where was Robert Plant from, you know?
Oh, right.
Something as simple as that. You know, where was he born, you know?
Yeah.
You might have to go see, if they had a book, then you'd be lucky. Then you might have to go to a book, to a library. Maybe you have to look at some magazines. You know, something as simple as where was he born? You know?
Right.
It would be this odyssey where you have to drive a car and actively seek it out. Today, kids, all they have to do is flip open their phone and Wikipedia it, and they have that information in 10 seconds. And not only that, they can have pretty much a Cliff Notes version of his life, easily accessible. You don't have to read the book.
Right.
That type of accessibility to information changes the game in terms of how you process things.
Okay.
So the way that kids expect to interpret information with their texting and their Facebook and their social networking, their blogging and their Tumblrs and things like that, this is the equivalent of that in movie form.
Wow. That's heady.
Oh, yeah. Trust me. This movie, it's a tricky movie. I will definitely say there is an aspect to it because there's a time traveling aspect that does a lot of 90s references. So if you're older and you've got a young heart and you like 90s music, this is a great movie for you, you know? But if you don't like it, you're like some sort of nerd that has never listened to music all your life, stay away, okay? And then if you're just a young teenager, this movie is completely catered to you. It's done at a speed and a level that doesn't insult your intelligence, that knows that you can process a lot of information, and knows that also you're going to watch this movie multiple times. So with multiple viewings, it gets deeper and deeper and deeper.
So that's the Inception reference, you might say.
But like I said, we make Inception look like a sketch. I mean, like, Inception's got nothing on us. You think Inception was complicated? We've got some loops for you in this movie.
How did you ever get somebody to fund this movie? I mean, you've got Josh Hutcherson, who's blowing up right now with The Hunger Games, and Dane Cook is huge as a comedian. I mean, these are not B-list celebrities by any stretch. I mean, someone must have ponied up. It looks like a major studio's involved, Dimension Films.
Yeah, the way I got someone to pony up was me. I paid for it.
You paid for this yourself?
Completely.
No.
Yeah, absolutely. This is all my money. I took some loans out. I have some investors that gave me loans, but you know, in a normal Hollywood movie, if the movie fails, they lose all their money. In my version of it, regardless of whether the movie fails or not, I pay back all those loans. So I am completely committed. Every single dollar is me. And yeah, it's quite a bit of money. But that's how much I believe in this. And not only that, that's how much I believe this movie is needed in teenage lives today.
Whoa.
I really want teenagers to have their own movie that speaks to them on their own level. Like we as teenagers had that. John Hughes was around making films specifically for us.
Right.
And nobody's doing that now. Hollywood just makes this template. All they do is like throw some found footage and maybe some shaky cam and a little bit of snark, and they say that's a teenage movie. That's not a teenage movie. And all they do, by the way, most teenage movies are nothing but sex jokes. And I mean, come on. Yeah, teenagers love sex, obviously, but that's not the only thing in a teenager's life. If anything, a teenager's life, is about trying to find, the sexual awareness and stuff like that. Sure. But also there's an aspect of high school. High school is tough. Surviving high school is a bigger issue. Getting that sex is one issue, but for a lot of kids, surviving high school is the greatest challenge of all, and that's what our movie's about.
It's funny, I was thinking about that, the idea of no one speaking to teens since John Hughes, and I was racking my brain trying to remember, have I seen or become aware of any movie that teens were into that really did speak to them since The Breakfast Club and Pretty in Pink and all of those? I couldn't come up with a single one.
No, because they four-quadrant these movies, Hollywood. They're afraid to make a movie just for teens. They want to make sure that the adults come in because they want to just make as much money as possible. That's what it is. If you isolate the adults, then you only get the teen. You're just depending on one small subset of money. So they don't really want to make a movie just for teens. They try to four-quadrant it. Pixar does the same thing. You can't just make a movie for kids. The adults have to have their own jokes on the side too. In this movie, yes, we have 90s references, but they're done in a way. If you watch the movie, and you'll see what I mean, they're done in a way that the kids are observing the 90s. They're not, and the film does celebrate it. So I think adults that are like, 30 and 40 can walk in and go, yeah, that's pretty cool, But at the same time, it's really done in a way that the kids are looking at it going, wow, those 90s are strange. Just as much as like when we saw Back to the Future, we didn't go back to the 50s and we'd have to know every reference.
Right.
But it was like we viewed the 50s from the perspective of somebody in the 80s. Now the kids are going to be looking at the 90s from the perspective of someone in 2012.
Wow. Well, how much gore is in there? I mean, why the slasher film? That's what I don't get.
It's one of many genres, and it's the framing device because it's the ultimate framing device. The movie has a lot of genres because you know what they say? They say, "Oh, Joseph, you're going to make a high school genre movie. Oh, that's great." High school is not a genre. High school is a location. Genre is a reflection of life. Genre is a way you tell a story about a specific aspect with specific social rules and a specific location generally. Like that's why a Western has a location and specific social rules in that environment. A science fiction film has another aspect of it too. High school itself is a specific location that has many genres in there. It's a microcosm of life. So what I did is that I went in there and I put every genre in there. So because, if you look at high school, you have to figure out what genre are you living? What story is being told about your life? Some kids live a horror film. Some kids live a sexcapade. Some people live a romantic comedy. Some people live a drama. So what I did is do a microcosm of the whole thing, wrap it within the sort of shell of a horror film. But I think about 20, 30 minutes into it, you realize you're not really watching a horror film anymore.
Right.
And we explore basically all aspects of high school life by mixing all the genres together.
Got it. So it's layered allegories, basically, is what we're talking here.
That's the first time I've heard that word, but thank you. Layered allegory is perfect.
I'm glad I could help. That's amazing. I mean, from this trailer, and granted, that's all I've seen at this point, but it seems like you've taken some of the sensibilities of your music videos and put it into a feature-length film. Like, I think about Katy Perry's iconic "Waking Up in Vegas." Love that video, by the way.
Thank you.
And it tells a story, and it has all these different images that are just thrown at you, and yet it's all coherent. Is this the same sort of thing?
Oh yeah, it's definitely in a vein of my style. Like if you like my music videos, you're gonna like this movie. If you don't like my music videos, then you're not. Don't bother with the movie because it's basically like one of my music extended over 88 minutes, but with a lot of narrative construction. Although I would definitely say that my videos tend to have a lot of narrative construction, anyways.
Yeah, they do.
And they're constructed in a very specific way. I mean, obviously the humor in my videos are always there. The sort of editorial jokes that I always come up with, and one edit will suddenly like she's thinking about something and she's poor, and the next minute that she's in an Ed Hardy shirt.
Yes.
These type of social jokes. Well, this movie's constructed out of that sort of mentality. The music video style, it's very funny. People go, "Oh, this is a very fast edited movie," but it's actually not. Well, when you see the movie, everything's done with a certain rhythm and a certain humor style, and it's actually edited very slow compared to a modern movie. Like if you watch The Hunger Games and you watch an action sequence, they cut that stuff, chop, 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 chop.
Yeah.
And you don't, you kind of get disoriented. And a lot of horror movies and stuff like that, they do shaky cam and they try to obliterate your sense of screen space. My movie is very laid out. you know? And actually, there's a lot of long takes, but it seems super fast because I layer it. You know, there's something happening in the background, something in the foreground, something in the midground, and it all switches back and forth, and actor switches place and stuff like that. And also, by the way, every single thing that happens on screen is super important. The tiniest little thing that you see turns into a giant joke later. You know, like for instance, you might see a shoe hanging in a glass case, and you think, oh, that's a funny thing, and then later it turns out to be a major plot point. Someone may mention something about like a kung fu star, and then suddenly they're doing something with that. I mean, it's like every little layer like pops in and out like a music video.
That's incredible, and that's the thing about your videos too. Everything in your videos seems to be there for a reason. How do you come up with the ideas for the videos that you've done? Like Moby, for example, one of the most creative minds on the planet, Gwen Stefani. I mean, in The Sweet Escape, you have her behind bars. I love the way you imaged that. Was that her idea or yours?
Yeah, well, you know what? The ideas always come from a million different places. And here's the thing about doing music videos. The thing about music is it's a rapidly changing industry, and almost like every 3 months, they're always looking for something new. You know, because it's like the music industry. The music industry is very, very different than the film industry, because the film industry basically tries to find a static template and then just swap it out. You know, they're not really interested in trying new things because there's so much money involved. When you spend $150 million, you want to basically sell something, and it's like a bank. You're trying to do a microloan and then get it back with a certain percent of interest, and you're trying to scientifically formulate what you think an audience will accept using past behavior, right? The record business, like, we just go ahead and try to like come up with new sounds, new things. Like what the hell is Skrillex? You know, it's like what the hell is dubstep? You know, it's like this music keeps changing, and new audio cues keep coming in, and then music videos by association with the record industry like changes too. Like they're always looking for the latest type of camera work or techniques and things like that, or ideas. So ultimately, the biggest game that you'd play in the music video business is how do you come up with the new ideas? And for me, one of the biggest tricks, and this is, by the way, all you music video directors out there or wannabe music video directors, this is one of the tricks I use. I let the ideas come from anywhere. Like I don't have one formulation for it, because if you have one formulation, you're falling into a pattern, and that pattern affects the way that you come up with creativity. You have to have an open mind. If Gwen Stefani says, I want to be behind gold, then you run with that. If you suddenly have an idea and it's there, run with it. If someone else has an idea, run with it. Like wherever the ideas come from, it doesn't matter. Drop your ego and just be open for the wavelength of the universe to tell you something.
Well, it's obviously working, because some of the biggest names in music are working with you. I mean, you think about Eminem, for example, and Britney Spears. Do these people find you, or do the record labels say, hey, we have Joseph Kahn over here, he's amazing? I mean, Lady Gaga, you worked with her. The names don't get any bigger than that.
Well, in the early days when you're a struggling music video director, you have to pitch on everything, you know, and you're like fighting against 30 other directors to do a video, right? But by the time you're trying to work with like a, you know, Gwen Stefani or Britney Spears or Lady Gaga, if you start submitting things to them like you do like that, that's not really called submission. It's called stalking. You know? Yeah. So you pretty much are at their mercy. You know, they either want to work with you and they contact you, or they don't, and there's no submission.
Wow. So once they decide that they do want to work with you, what's the process? Do you sit down with them personally?
Well, again, it's very different on every single artist. You know, some artists are very, very detail oriented, and you might even say some are very controlling. And one of the reasons I have so much longevity is I'm a chameleon. I can switch and work in any way possible. I prefer mostly to have as much creative freedom as possible. Like Moby, for instance, like I'll come up with an idea, and he's such an artist himself, he completely runs with it. He says, just do what you want. Like, we are made of stars.
Yes.
That he literally gave me money, and then I ran around Hollywood for 7 days and made up that video. I made it up completely. It was improvised. The other one with Gwen Stefani, that was 2 days in a studio. Just run with it. You know, we just made up stuff on the day, you know? I mean, of course he would bring in like certain things and behaviors and stuff like that, but he pretty much let me just run with it. Now, on the flip side, you might have someone like Eminem, you know, who is so lyrically based. Like he spends a lot of time on his lyrics. That's everything that Marshall does.
Yes.
Is write those stories. Right. Then we're not going to violate those stories and just do whatever. I have to get in his head. I have to figure out what he means. What does he want? You know, and we discuss every little issue. And then as soon as he feels that I understand exactly what he wants in terms of storytelling, then he lets me flourish it. Then I get to pick the colors, the lighting, the sets, you know, how I'm going to shoot the angles, what the editing is like, you know, but like I have to be fully versed in with the storytelling, because that is the essence of his art. So it depends. It runs the gamut.
And it seems like you've got a big budget to work with when you come up with these storyboards. I mean, they look like feature films.
Yeah, well, you know what? That's the one thing. My videos are expensive, but they're not any more expensive than, say, other video directors' videos. And that's the trick behind my craft. I pride myself in having such a high level of craft that the videos look more expensive than they do. Because they're not going to give me an unlimited budget. You know, they have X amount of dollars. And generally whenever I get it, it's like they'll go, oh, Joseph Kahn, you're going to get the bigger budget than everybody else. That's not necessarily true. I might get a little bit more, but not significantly more to do the type of work I do. So basically, if I made it a point that if another director got, a bone and I got a bone, that director may come back with a polished bone, but I'm going to come back with a steak.
Well, those are definitely some stakes that you're coming up with. I mean, it seems like that and this might be going way out on a limb, but it seems like you have single-handedly revolutionized the way that music videos are made, because I've never seen any videos that pop like yours, I have to say.
Well, no, thank you. Technically, I've been very influenced by a lot of amazing video directors in the past, so I always have to give my hat off to these like pioneers that constructed the art form. My biggest agenda in music videos, that I've always wanted to do, was the integration of pop. That was always my sort of main objective of going in there. Like I know it's a funny thing. It's like I wanted to celebrate the world instead of demolish it.
Yes.
And I think if you get anything out of my videos, there's a positivity in them, and I've always seeked that out.
Now, would you say that your new movie Detention is a positive thing as well? Is that where you're going with that too?
Well, yeah, absolutely. This is a love letter to youth culture.
Okay, because I was wondering, because if I was a teenager growing up today and looking at the economy and looking at the opportunities available for me right now, I'd be overwhelmed. I don't think I'd know what to do. In fact, I've got nieces and nephews that are literally paralyzed because they're like, ah.
Yeah, but here's the thing. This is the shame of us, okay? Like, we're the older generation, and we've done some pretty crappy things, Those poor kids are going to be paying for our mistakes for years and years and years, But the reality is, if you look at these kids, they're the most progressive, least racist, least homophobic, most open-minded generation that has ever existed. You have to give credit to our generation for at least giving birth to these people.
Yes.
But they're really great kids. They really are. And it's been that way throughout time. If you track back hundreds of years, I can guarantee you each piece of humanity gets better and better and better, and it's following that same curve, And these kids today, like, look at them, they're intermixed. Like a white kid is probably gonna have a good black kid as a friend. There's a lot of kids that are just mixed together. They dress in all sorts of alternative ways. Like, no one nerd culture, by the way. Back when we were growing up, if someone even said anything about I like Indiana Jones, they would say you're a nerd, right?
Yes.
And today, because we have iPods and like iPads, and everybody's just so intermixed with media, and their relationship with like YouTube and Vimeo and things like that, and Tumblr, like, everybody is a nerd essentially. You can no longer call yourself a nerd and suddenly specialize yourself and call yourself an outcast. Like, today, there's just so much more of an open-minded perspective of art, and the perspective of expressing yourself. They're just a much more open society, and those kids should have a movie that reflects that. We can't keep making the same movie for this new generation of kids that are amazing. So I wanted to make a movie that still felt like a high school movie. High school movies are tough.
Yeah.
They're supposed to be. High school is not an easy place to be. No matter how smart you are, you're still a teenager, and you're still going to discover the first time you fell in love. It's going to be in high school. The first time you're about to flunk out of something, it's in high school. These are overwhelming emotions.
Huge.
Yeah, so that is still there in the movie. But at the same time, I don't want a movie to keep telling kids that they're rotten. That's a terrible message, because they're not. They're better than us. We get slammed by like all the old critics, because all the movie critics in the country that write for newspapers are like 50 plus.
Yeah.
And they're never going to get this movie, right?
Yeah, right.
But then if you flip it and you look at like all the people who are doing blogs and video blogs, like all the kids are reacting like crazy, going, "This is great." And you wonder why newspapers are dying.
Exactly.
It's like they're not even trying to speak to the kids. They're not even listening. They make fun of them. They go, "Oh, this movie's made for people that Twitter and text and 50 times a day." Well, yeah, that's what they do.
That's what they do. Yeah, that's totally what they do.
So what are you going to do? Like, try to pretend that doesn't happen, or you do acknowledge it and try to actually make a movie for them,
Have you done any test screenings?
Yeah, we were at every time we go. It's funny. It's a weird combination. We've had geek screenings with people that are over 30, but if it's the right audience and they're really tapped into, like, say, music, like I'm sure that everybody in this room is, you're gonna love the movie because you'll get every reference, like more than the kids will,
Right.
But on the flip side, if you're like a kid and you watch the movie, you're gonna like watch it from. You're not gonna understand any of the reference. You're gonna get all the humor and all the sort of like someone like. doing getting embarrassed because she's dancing stupid.
Yeah.
Becomes that much more impacting to
Oh.
you because it's like it's more relatable. So on the flip side, it's like you'll get all the jokes and they'll get all the relatability. And you
Right.
combine the two and you've got a great audience. But we showed it to USC the other night and it was just amazing.
Really?
And actually, the other thing is,
Yeah.
this town is great for it. I released it in Austin and it didn't do very well. And then I came to the Seattle Film Festival and everybody just clicked, and it was like the first time I really heard an amazing reaction.
Oh, so it screened last year.
It screened last year at the Seattle Film, and it actually started this trigger for the rest of the film. And then from that point, every film festival got it. But it's actually here. That's why I'm here tonight because this is my thank you on a certain level.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's really cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's funny.
I mean it's a progressive city, and
It is. Yeah, and I do think about what is really out there for teens today, and there really is nothing.
no, because the studios don't care, so someone has to
Yeah.
make it.
Yeah, God. I hope it gets traction and at least makes your money back and kicks
Well,
off a new.
at some point it's gonna go on VOD and the kids will see it there and stuff like that. But I like to do it well in theaters. But word of mouth is everything. So if you tell 3 people and you tell 3 people, and it's like,
Yeah.
all I gotta do is try to get 2,000 people in a theater this weekend here in this city, and it'll do well. So 660 people a day. See what happens.
Is there any kind of social marketing campaign going on? I mean, did you start like a?
Yeah, I mean, there's a Facebook. I've been tweeting, and ultimately, it's word of mouth because ultimately those kids don't read newspapers.
I know.
So that doesn't matter.
Right.
And even though we're getting trashed in theaters, it doesn't really matter unless they look at an aggregate like Rotten Tomatoes, which
Yeah.
kind of hurts us.
Yeah.
But kids will only listen to other kids essentially. If someone
Right.
goes on a blog or someone goes on a video log
Right.
and they're talking about how great it is, they'll listen to that way before they'll ever listen to Richard Roper.
Oh yeah, totally.
So it's important to screen this. Unfortunately, it's screened so late in Seattle, but I'm here, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, are you gonna do an event tonight? Is that?
Yeah, I'm doing at 8:30. I'm doing a Q&A. So it's actually there's only one theater playing.
Yeah.
So I'm going in and Q&Ing after it.
Well, hopefully that'll give it a nice pop.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, God, it's so ambitious. I mean, it's like you're trying to revolutionize the way that movies are made.
I really am. I'm being honest. I really am.
Yeah.
That's the agenda here.
I mean, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Was that where you'd like to go? Doing full-length features.
I
instead
don't.
of,
To be honest, I don't want to make a ton of movies. Like they're really hard, and this took 5 years to do.
Yeah.
So if I make a handful of movies, but each one counts, that's all I care about.
Yeah, because you did the one in 2004, and
Yeah.
and that was
Yeah.
a
So
lot
I
more.
only want to make movies that I really care about. So I don't need to make 20 movies in my life.
Yeah.
But if I make 5 great ones, then
Yeah.
I'm happy.
Mhm.
So this is a great one. It really is. I truly believe in this. I've seen the reactions. I know what it is. And it is a revolution. It is a new way of making movies. And a lot of the older critics don't get it, but I know the young people do. And open-minded older people like us.
Yeah. A multi-layered allegorical ode to youth culture. That's Detention.
That is. Thank you.
And it is playing in theaters now. Joseph Kahn, thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you.
This is awesome. I think that'll do it.